Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
All right. For my gender pronouns is she or her. And if you had any POI, you can put it on the chat box first. Um, but don't spam it. I'd rather for you to try it with another way, like just unmuting yourself. But try the chat box first. I'm gonna give you time later. I would set my timer first. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, what's the motion says that we gonna prefer the world where love is perceived as a limited commodity is based on what happened in the status quo, where there is some reason, like there's an act for human to act like taken for granted every time they get the love instead. We see that love shouldn't be looks as unlimited, and love should be more appreciated. Why so? Because we believe that love is something that very coming from the emotional. It's not something that you're gonna have every day, and it's coming from very complex aspects. So if you ask for someone to giving love with not limited or unlimited as and seen as the unlimited commodity, and it will makes you to force that person to giving more and more because you will never feel enough at the end of the day. Also, if you are at the POV where you need to giving love which not limited, then you're gonna forcing yourself to always giving something that will giving harms to you, not only to your mental health but also the other aspects. And what we're talking about is not the only relationship that coming from love relationship or dating, but also to the family and the friendship and any other relationship in common. Before coming up to my argument, first clarification on about what we really need to define from the motion is about what are the aspects that we really need to define first about the human. Human has the nature where they are very dynamic. They have the ego. They have a very emotional, but also have the rational, and they are have limited on doing something. Also about love, that we believe that love is much important in a relationship, but also it needs to be along with the other aspects, not only love. Also, by we mentioned the limited community is that it is not going to be no limit. It's going to be it needs to be limited, and also it's not going to make you more pushing yourself when you don't have any love to that towards the person itself. Also, coming up to our goals, that we have the goals that to creating a better relationship not only lies on the love that are rational but more logical. Two things that we need to explain here about why does it very acceptable to supporting the motion, and second about why it's better for us to say that love is perceived as a limited commodity instead of unlimited. First, talking about the urgency here, that who has the love and who are giving love toward each other is the human, right? So human nature giving having they have the interest to may have like a more sustain on the relationship, and they have the ego to giving or receiving love more and more. And compared to the love or the relationship itself, it's not gonna always be sustained if you only pushing on the love instead. Because why? Human always gonna is always gonna fluctuative, always gonna change, and having like the dilemma on like standard they need to put in a relationship or anything they see in the world, where if you where human are always gonna having doing mistakes, like for example like a child in a family where not all child always gonna do something good, but sometimes they do make the mistakes. And what we need to do when your child is doing a mistake, of course you're gonna trying to like forgive them, but we as the human always have the limited to forgive or like to act kind to or giving kindness to the person. And it's something very important to not giving only like forgive or easily giving love toward your child. Why so? Because if you are doing that, then you're gonna normalizing on your child to doing crimes or doing mistakes. And if so, it's gonna makes your family more seen as like a normalization and very toxic for the child and also for yourself itself. And what happened when it happens to like the other relationship, like the love relationship one, seeing on how love relationship always full of possibility to having like a gaslighting act or like the manipulative. What do you think it's come from? It's come from the thing that the perspective where you see love as unlimited commodity. Why so? Saying on how if you break your partner trust, then what you gonna ask for the partner? Of course to like forgive you and love you back. And what if they don't love you more because they break the trust? Of course, but because you push them to seeing love as unlimited, then you're gonna make them to forcing themselves to even like giving more love when they don't even have like the intimacy anymore or the trust anymore. And what happens? So you're gonna gaslighting them and you're gonna manipulate it as if you're doing nothing wrong. Well, at the end, if you had like the relationship that more sustained because you pushing them to having like to always love you more, then it might be sustained. But is your relationship or as good as the first when it happens, as the first when it forms? Well, it might be sustained, but it is having no if it is having no like intimacy anymore, or like any trust or any love at the first place. Also, by what I said before, that how it's gonna like normalizing the crime, so it will never gonna giving like improvement toward the partner or anyone that you love at that relationship. For example, like your friend doing mistakes and doing something that you don't like, then if you just normalize that and giving love more for themselves, and it will never gonna give like improvement towards the people. They will always do something wrong. They will always normalize that as if it is nothing wrong with them. So your relationship will just being like a very toxic relationship. In the other else, we're gonna talking about how the relationship works. We believe that relationship not only needs love but also needs to self-reflect. The only way you can fully enjoy the love is in your life is to choose to make something else more important in your life than love. As we mentioned before, love does not solve your relationship problems. Love is an emotion where it's coming from like a very where it's can push you to doing such a rational action. Love does not equal compatibility. For like what happened when you love someone, it's not gonna and someone love you back, it's not gonna always be the same. Maybe you love them for like a certain days, but they love you for like certain years. It's from the first time it's already different in the different aspects and reason. And if you always ask for the love for being equal, for such a being like a perfect form, then it will just push you to having like such an irrational expectation. And at the end of the day, it was just gonna make you have like break your expectation, and you have no and you're not fully your goal or you fully your expectation, and you feel so hopeless and you feel so hopeless and feeling sad more. Because why? The relationship that you asked, the relationship that you have been expect, never gonna achieve your expectation at the first place. I was my case.
Okay, thank you for that fine speech. Now I welcome leader of opposition to open the case from OO. Here.
Hi, sorry, can you give me like up to 2 minutes because I have to set up a couple of things.
Okay. Okay, are you done? OO?
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry. All right, I'm starting my speech. I'm sorry. Okay, in 3, 2, 1. Imagine you were a person that has nothing. You have so little to offer. You're not even physically that attractive to attract someone of your interest. But obviously, as human, you need someone to accompany you. You need someone for you to take care of, and someone that is going to take care of you. You need company, essentially, right? Now we think that with the narrative of love being limited, it would result a problem. And what we think becomes a problem here is that what the problem that we establish here is the fact that love is the only thing that's accessible to everyone. With the narrative of love being limited means that you have to have like a certain standard to manage your love. You have to meet a certain love has a capacity. You need to there is a certain capacity put for you to love and to give love or to receive love for someone uh, or from an individual to another individual, which we think it would make love inaccessible, and it would lead, and we think that this would lead into such a harmful condition. Now, first of all, a few points of rebuttal. The government bench stated that it will be taken for granted. Ladies and gentlemen, the OG is playing in the worst case scenario of thinking that any amount of love would be exploited. We think that this won't happen in the first place if you did not quantify the amount of love you can offer in the first place. We think that it would not be exploited if the love that if the love that you give or the love that you receive does not have like a stock, or like a like a capacity in the first place. We think that it would not happen, and oh, um, it would be more beneficial if you did not put any certain standard in loving someone, or be conditional to love and to receive love in the first place. And second of all, they stated that people always change. Exactly, because humans change, because people come and go, Miss OG. Love will keep you on the ground to stay loyal and to love your partner and family. When people change, when even if it's like uh, whether it's a good change or like a bad change, you would uh, you would still have that company, you would still have that someone that you can run to, you can still have that someone that you could rely on when the love that you give and the love that you receive in the first place is unconditional, when the love that you are trying to offer is not quantified. And the fact that everything in this world is limited, the power of love will be the only thing left to give everyone solace. Now, with the characterization here, what we are trying to defend, the vulnerable actor, is that everyone who only have love to offer, these people are vulnerable, and we think that they're the ones who we're trying to defend here. And even everyone in the society that thinks that they do not meet like a certain standard, or they're not like attractive enough to attract a company, or just people that only have love to offer. Now, I would like to bring my reasons here. First of all, the assertion is that what we want to prove is that the narrative of love as something that is infinite or limit. We want to prove that the narrative of love as something that is infinite or limitless or unquantifiable would be the most beneficial thing that someone could have, and it would be more, it would cater to the most people. It would maximize happiness under our side of the house rather than their side of the house. Panels, the realistic situation that would happen under their narrative, under the narrative of love being limited, is the fact that everyone that is trying to love, or everyone that is trying to receive love, has to meet like a certain capacity, right? They have to like meet a certain standard. The realistic situation is the fact that the realistic situation under their narrative is the fact that love should be cultivated, that love should be managed, and you have to like understand a certain circumstances, or you have to like basically educate yourself before you love. You have to like educate yourself before you give love, or you have to or receive love, which we think it would be harmful, since love is the most accessible thing that everyone could have. And with that scenario, with that narrative that love should be limited, then it would not become accessible anymore, which it will lead to like harmful causes. Now, structural reasoning number one is that under the narrative, another structural reasoning is the fact that you can't quantify how much fulfillment you need for the emotional aspects of your life. You as humans need emotional fulfillment, right? You need to like fulfill the emotional aspects of your life. You need to feel great when you were living your life. You need to live life. You as human deserve to live life to the fullest. And exactly why? Because you deserve to feel peace. You deserve to feel in peace. You deserve to be you deserve to like be taken care of. You deserve to be fulfilled emotionally. We think that um, we think that love should be we think that love, which is the only which is the most important, which is the most accessible thing that you can have to cater to your emotional needs, it cannot be quantified. Because again, you would never there are no such capacity, there are no such there it is very unquantifiable. When can you when can your emotional be fully fulfilled? And exactly why we think love, which is the most accessible thing, could not be set in a certain standard. And third of all, love is the most accessible way to take care of your mental health. When the government side of the house stated that love would only make your mental health unconditional love, or loving someone infinitely could only harm your mental health, we disagree with that. Because we think that when you love someone, when you truly love someone without having to like worry about the capacity of your love being run out, you would be you would you would receive the happy you would go through such of a happiest state of your life, because you are able to give love to someone that is you are able to give someone like a good quality of happiness. You are willing to, like, you're gonna be genuine for someone. Essentially, you're gonna give and receive love in a better and greater quality, if you are not quantifying it and never been product to a posting.
Thank you for that fine speech. Now I welcome DPM to continue the case from OG here.
Check, check. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you. Let me set up my timer. If you have any POI, you can just unmute yourself. Preferred pronouns, she, her. Okay. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. It is problematic when the concept of unlimited love justify your miss to your toxic ex-boyfriend, for example. It is dangerous when the concept of unlimited love being the only reason a child acknowledged when their mother didn't leave their abusive father, for example, right? This is exactly what the oppositions are going to ignore because of how the concept of unlimited love that they're trying to challenge towards individuals with limited ability to stand for themselves is exactly when they are going to disenfranchise these individuals, and finally these individuals are going to be burdened under the sides of oppositions, right? Now, before I speak, a clear point of clarification. Notice that, panels, the opposition is taking for granted my first speaker's point on how the essence of how love is going to exist and grow can still happens within our side of the house, right? When someone is running out of love from an individual, notice that there will be this clear distinguish and acknowledgement, because these two individuals, between these two individuals, that, for example, like what A did is hurtful and problematic to B, and B has all the right for standing for themselves by speaking up, breaking up, and setting a clear boundaries, right? Exactly right after this, the idea of love can still grow back because of how rational people are going to change and be better, for example, right? This will trigger the acknowledgement within the victim of in a relationship, for example, to acknowledge that their ex partner is trying to be better and is trying to change, is for being better, right? Even if the ex partner is being irrational by still being by still being abusive and behaving with all of their red flags, for example, it's still going to still going to benefit the one who have a clear distinguish of their love running out anyway, because of how they're going to be protected by this concept from a long term burdens that will be experienced by them if they stay to choose, right? They choose to stay, right? Now, coming to my point of rebuttals, when opposition say that someone need a company while they have nothing, right? We say no, because of we believe that every time we need to get something, then we need to give something or do something for achieving our goals or agenda, right? So your effort will be appreciated. But if OO thinks so, then it will be just temporary love. Then the love you had will just lies on the pittiness, right? Love needs to be accessible. When they say that love needs to be accessible, yeah, yes, love is already accessible. But there are people who less appreciate the affection or anything and or all of the affections given by other, right? And by the narrative that love is unlimited, it will never try to improve yourself to be on a better standard, and will just force someone to love them back without being aware on your lacks or or trying to fix your bad behaviors or bad actions, for example, right? And then they're coming with the idea of how love is infinite, right? Love will never be infinite. Every human has the ego and is selfish and in having their own interest in doing something. When you do something, it's all because of your interest and hope, right? This is exactly when the idea of how limited love itself are going to create a clear boundaries for oneself to actually creating the acknowledgement within the others to actually getting better, right? Now to extend my first speaker's speech, I'm going to talk about the long-term impacts within our side of the house. With limited love panels, notice that you are going to have this clear setup of limitations of how someone can control your feelings and actions, right? This is about creating a clear, healthy, and independent boundaries because of how others are going to treat you, right? This is how you're going to you react. This is how the ability of you to react to your partner's red flags, for example, or your ability to react to your boss mistreat you while using the concept of loyalty to company, for example. In this status in this scenario itself, you are going to have this idea of how you are going to be justified for standing for yourself without being challenged of you being such an questionable partner, being such an insecure partner, or being such an noisy workers, for example, right? Now this is going to looks like within that status quo itself, it is going to create how people are going to have a are going to be able to avoid all of the mistreatment they experience, right? Now now uh, what is this is going to looks like within the scope of a wider chunk of people, like the society, right? Notice that, panels, when someone leave their parents to retirement home, for example, right, they will be judged because of how they didn't love their parents anymore because of this concept of unlimited love, right? The fact that reasons behind the children actions are going to be ignored by the society because of how the concept of children needs to always depend on needs to always pay, quote unquote, pay back or do the best for their parents are going to exist. This is when it is going to be dangerous because of how the idea of childhood traumas, for example, that experienced by these children won't be considered as a justified actions done by these childrens, right? All of this protections, all of this their attempts to actually standing for themselves, and the attempts to make the abuser to be better and to be having a personal life, for example, right? It is going to be ignored because of how the essence of unlimited love is going to create you for always bending down for whatever happens and whatever and however people are going to treat you, right? When we're justifying the love when we're when we're justifying the love that is a complex and buildable form which has its limit, people will never feel wrong when we feel disappointed on someone and losing attractions to the people just to protect themselves. This is exactly when all of these urgencies within an individual's life are going to be ignored because of how the concept of labeling people to just love your significant others, love your children, having a relation, doing everything you want your friends wants you to do is going to be justified and going to disenfranchise these individuals. We're so proud to propose.
Thank you for that fine speech. Now I welcome the leader of opposition to close the opening bench debate. Here.
Just checking if I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, before I start my speech, I go by she, her, and I prefer for you to open your mic for pure eyes because I'll not be paying attention to the chat box. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Love in and of itself is really hard to quantify, right? You don't even know how much capacity that you have to love someone. And that's why we believe under our side of the house, we will stick with the status quo, and that is to live and that is to love people unconditionally, right? So let's take a look at OG's case here. They stated that love should be more appreciated because they believe that it's emotional and that you're not going to have love every day, and that unconditional love makes you demand more from people because you'll never be satisfied, and that humans have limits on doing something, and the idea that people are rational, and they propose the idea that people are rational enough to grow love back. And here's a few responses, right? Here's why none of those things will work at the end of the day. Firstly, we concede that love is deeply emotional and not logical, but that's exactly why it shouldn't be limited, right? How do you even limit love? How does it even work? How does that limiting and making love conditional, how does that work, right? OG failed to explain any of this, therefore we'll give you a better proposal in return. I'll get to this later. But secondly, on the mental health note, like depression, anxiety, etc., we believe could be solved by love. In this case, the most accessible way to take care of your mental health is through loving someone and receiving love, because love is already accessible, right? We think that by quantifying love, by making love a supply, by making it something that's like you can count, the exchange of love in the first place will never be enough, because as human who has unlimited needs, any amount of percentage of love you receive can never be enough with the expectation you have, right? Because it just harms loving someone in the first place. Quantifying will do that to you. But thirdly, them saying that love can never be unlimited is just plain wrong. Because how can it not be? How can it not be when it's not even quantifiable in the first place? No, thank you. Their lack of explanation just kills their case here, right? And also realize that loving unconditionally does not mean that people can just that does not mean that people cannot just randomly stop loving people, right? Because you can get out of a relationship while also loving, like, for example, other people in your life unconditionally, right? Because if you are limiting people's ability to love, yes, you are able to like say no, get out of a relationship, but that also means you will treat other people the same way. You will treat those people that did nothing to you. Also, you're also going to give them a conditional love, right? So what about these people that you just love them endlessly? What about these people that are just important in your life? Are you also going to treat them? Are you also going to love them as equally as to those that you hate? Like, that's not going to work, right? Because love, it should be out there. It should be free for people to exercise however you want, right? So let's take a look at the comparison here. Gov claimed that human nature wants sustainability in a relationship, but even that can be solved under our side of the house. Why, right? So for people to exercise love freely, that's what we want. Notice that under our side of the house, we are able to solve that. And how is this possible, right? Here's what we will see under our side of the house. With unconditional and limitless love, we are able to cater to more people. There's an apparent utilitarian benefit within our proposal. Notice that at the end of the day, love is something that's hard to move on from, right? Rather than absolutely anything else in the world, once you love someone, it takes months, weeks, it even years might not be enough to some people to move on, right? There's something about loving someone for however long it is that just makes it hard. For you to move on from. So that's what you need to notice. But under Gov, and that's what you need to notice, right? So under our side of the house, we are able to make people love other people however they want, right? Because perceiving love as conditional is exhausting at best, because you're essentially turning love into something that you should manage. Because the nature of love, notice that it's not quantifiable. You never did, nor will you ever know how much you love someone. That's the so-called limit itself is subjective, right? People have different capacities to loving someone. So just because I conditionally love person X does not, that might mean that here's how it works. Here's how it works. So imagine me loving someone, right? Conditionally here. They might think that I love them unconditionally. There's different ways how we perceive love. And at the end of the day, it's going to subjective to everyone. So you can't just limit people to loving other people equally, right? That's not how it works. So the burden is obviously bigger on their playfield. Because notice that now, whenever you want to love your partner, you need to limit it. You can't go out on a date, for example, as much as you did, because then you have to allocate your love for other things. That just takes away the nature of love, and that is to be exercised freely, right? A person's conditional love might not be unconditional to other people. That's just the gist of love. It's different for every person, and the sustainability, as Gav mentions a lot, is also up to different relationships, right? So under their side of the house, it's going to be very harmful, because then you're going to treat everyone equally. The abusive father that they've mentioned before, for example, it's also going to make the mother treat the baby. Also, the love that the mother gives to the father is also going to be limited for the baby, right? That's just how it's going to work under their side of the house. And we believe that it's harmful, right? And the impact is also going to be twice as worse. And that is why we are proud to post it.
Thank you for that fine speech. Now I welcome member of government to open the closed bench debate. You're here.
Check. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
All right. Wait, I set my papers.
Also
My
sorry, for all teams, please just type in the chat your speaking position. Thank you.
all right. So my gender pronouns is she or her, and my preference is to unmute yourself. And I will start. Wait. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. On this debate, note that love necessity of every individual is different. Therefore, that this limited love is actually important for us to make sure it still give freedom to an individual, whether they choose to still stay in love or still stay in the relationship, or they want to get out from the relationship and do their life that they like, right? But first of all, let's mapping OG first. I think OG is simplistic and they only play in the best case scenario, because OG don't tell us why on the worst case, when people already that hurt on relationship and cannot change their feelings or fix the relationship to become better, why this limited commodity is still good in the end of the day. CG, that's why OG cannot win this debate. But let's rebut towards OO. OO claims that love in status quo is inaccessible. We say that this is unrealistic statement, right? Because why? I think I'll only simplify on this, because note that love is still can accessible, because first reason is maybe you see someone, for example, on the street or in the college, and you have a nice first impression to that person, and for step by step you try to like him and love him. We say that this is love. This is still called love, right? You can feel it in deep in your heart, and no one force you to not to feel it, right? Even when you love him in silence, even when you keep it as a secret, but deep in your heart you can feel it, it means that it's still accessible for an individual to access the love itself, right? We say that secondly, love is accessible is not only just because you succeed to marry someone, for example. Only simple feelings that you have, that your heart is bounding, for example, that your heart is that you think that you like him as the very first place, is it means that love is still accessible, right? Therefore, that I think OO is to simplify. Even in the worst case, when you think that, oh, I love someone, but those people don't love me, don't reply on my love, I think that this is still okay, right? Because first, it is in the end of the day, it is out of your control because you cannot force people to consent to love you also, right? Secondly, you can still find another person that have same frequency with you maybe, or you can go to community in this world and find a better person and so on and so forth. Thirdly, that you still have a family and friends that also can give a care, can also give cares to you and so on and so forth, right? Even when your family is toxic, for example, you still able to find platform like psychiater or social media friends or application dating, for example, that still fulfill your emotional necessity on love, right? Therefore, that in terms of accessible, we say that this is still accessible, right? Secondly, secondly, the claims that people have limited capacity to love someone, for example, exactly, right? The moment people have capacity, this this limited commodity is good, because exactly these people will not be burdened to force to love someone to limit their capacity to begin with, because this will break their mental health. Secondly, it is only creating a toxic relationship in the end of the day, right? Therefore, that exactly, right? I think therefore, cannot win this debate, right? But what I'm going to talk on this debate, firstly, why love cannot be forced, and secondly, how on the other side of the house, this love commodity is can create a better, a healthier relationship. Going to the first, why love cannot be forced. Firstly, we believe that necessity of love by every individual is actually different and always change. There is individual that need so much romantic love from their partner because maybe in the past they have toxic relationship coming from their parents, or there is individual that also enjoy to living their life alone without a partner, or the love is just for temporary emotional fulfillment whenever you feel sad, or when you just recently face failure, so on and so forth, right? What does it mean? It means that first, people always change in terms of love necessity. It means that you cannot, that this limited commodity is actually important to fulfill this temporary necessity, right? Why this kind of argument is true? Because look in status quo, where people right now so much promoting or support single life, or they run the long distance relationship, or they only access love via applications, dating, for example, Tinder, so on and so forth, just to fulfill their temporary emotions, right? Therefore, that exactly this is true, that the necessity of people to feel love is actually different. Therefore, you cannot force them to stay in the relationship, so on and so forth, right? Therefore, that this kind of love commodity actually important, right? Then why then this limited commodity is good for this kind of people, right? Firstly, not what does limited commodity means. It means that it gives you and it gives an individual a space to be alone, to live based on their necessity. Why is that so? Because under our side of the house, love commodity is when you can give love, then you can give it, or when you want to receive love, then you are also allowed to receive it, right? It is free based on your consent and based on your emotional necessity and also capacity, right? Then why this kind of things is actually important and exclusive? Firstly, note that love cannot be forced. It is always should based on your consent. It is when an individual consent to love each other and decide to run the relationship for a long term and also a healthy relationship, right? Secondly, love is actually freedom of choice of individual, right? Imagine if you force people to stay in the relationship when they no longer have capacity and when they no longer have necessity to give or receive love. It means that you hamper the freedom of individual to live their life, right? Secondly, we believe this is important also because happiness is not only rely on love or rely on relationship, right? Happiness can be exist from simply when you when you achieve your dreams, for example, without even you get support from your partner. But when you achieve your dreams, it also becomes a happiness, right? Therefore, that this is important, right? Like limited commodity is important. Then this only exclusive achieve because under rest of the house we don't limit people, but under the rest of the house they limit people. Therefore, that healthy relationship will not exist under that. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that fine speech. Now I welcome member of opposition to open the case from CO. Here.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
I'm setting up my timer, so please be. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. If you want to PY, you can just unmute yourself and say PY, preferably for CG. And wait a second, I'm sorry. Yeah, because I'm not going to read the chat. So if you want to keep giving it the chat, I'm not going to answer the PY, okay? I'm going to start my speech. In 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we think that actually the full case from team governments is basically about how actually they want people to understand that their love is limited, and therefore they it gives them the excuses, or it makes other people to compromise their bad behavior because they know that their love to these people is going to end anyway, ladies and gentlemen. Then several point of clarifications and engagement towards the case from team governments, right? Starting from OG. The OG team the prime minister realized her ideas on how actually it's going to be very harmful if love is unlimited, because finally when you keep giving your love towards your children, for example, you are going to let those children to do criminal actions, for example, like letting do whatever they want to do to begin with. Our response is it's not true, right? Because love does not come with just letting your children to do whatever they want to do, ladies and gentlemen. Love can be transferred into protections, for example, because you don't want your children to be a criminal. You can show your love by protecting them and tell them to do not do certain things, for example. So that shows you that actually how their worries about this love is being unlimited, and therefore it leads to criminals and etc. is no longer relevant, right? Let's talk about the case that being brought by the deputy prime minister on how she believed that actually these people are going to firstly she believed that actually it's going to her idea of how love can grow after it runs out, and therefore, for example, if you already break up with your ex, for example, when you see your ex is being better, your love might grow eventually, right? We think that actually it's not true, right? Because knowing to the motions in itself, something that is limited, when it's done, when it's finished, it is not going to grow back, ladies and gentlemen. That's the thing and the world that is going to happen under OG, right? When you finally eat your chocolate, for example, and then your chocolate is already done, it's not going to be back again, finally, like OG would think, ladies and gentlemen. But let's talk about how actually OG think that actually it will compromise bad behavior, and you are going to fix your bad behaviors to make your loved ones to stay with you, for example. We think that it's still not true, right? Because eventually, when you do those things, even if you want to be better than everyone, ladies and gentlemen, you know that your partner would no longer love you, and he might leave you, for example. Your betterment is pointless, right? Because whatever you want to do, finally your partner love, when your partner love is run out, then he is going to leave you, right? And that's the thing. When those things happen, you are no longer have the ability to be better anyway, right? all the case and all the case that being brought by CG would be intertwined in my substantive. So what am I going to prove to you in this debate? I'm going to prove to you exactly what's exactly the harm under government side of the house. But secondly, I'm going to give you a characterizations of what exactly or why that how love is very dynamic. Even if you have unlimited amount of love, unlimited capacity of giving love or receiving love under oppositions, you have to understand that love is dynamic, ladies and gentlemen, and why it's much better in our side. Let's talk about the case, the harm that if we want to perceive the world as opening and closing government, right? We think that actually the first harm that would more likely going to happen is how it's going to be used by certain individuals to make excuses for them to do cruel things, for example, right? If you feel like you are in a relationships, because you, ladies and gentlemen, even if you are in a healthy relationship, there is always a problem and there is always someone who find a reason for you to leave you, for example, right? Even if you are doing such a great job as a partner. If these people in their world, when your partner finally know that they are not love you anymore because their love is limited, then they are going to do it and make it as excuses for them to leave you and find another partner, because they know that when I meet another partner, I'm going to have another love and it might run out, and those things happen. But we think that it's much way harmful in a way that it pushes individuals to jump into a never-ending loop of finding the best partner they can meet, ladies and gentlemen, right? Because you know, in their world, your love capacity is just going to be limited. That means each individual that receive your love or each individual that give your love is going to be limited also, ladies and gentlemen. In their world, you're just going to be living in a never-ending loop of fitting with other individual and then other individual and other individual. For example, like CG would like to engage with this case and how they want to, these people can do certain things like community actions and etc. Exactly, your love for that community will run out. You have to find another community and it incentivizes you to work more, ladies and gentlemen. It just gives you much, give you tirements, right? But secondly, we think that actually how it makes people to do abusive things in a bigger positions. We think that this debate
Yeah,
already only talk about relationship between mother and no, thank you, mother and husband or those things. But we think that it speaks more than that, ladies and gentlemen. Why? For example, like countries, love of a country towards their citizens, for example, right? If we perceive these things happen under the government side of the house, when we know our government love to their citizens is limited, ladies and gentlemen, we as the citizens who are powerless, we're going to compromise when our government is doing such bad things because we don't have other accessibility in living the country. For example, like those people who are poor, for example, we're just going to compromise when our government's doing such horrible things towards us because we know that their love to us is limited. However, in our world, at the very least, even if you know that your government is doing such bad things, you know that your government's love is unlimited. So that means your government is going to love you again, and therefore it leads to my second ideas, right? And how actually we say love is dynamic. Ladies and gentlemen, what we need to understand right now is that the capacity of someone to love is unlimited. However, in these motions, it's going to be perceived as limited. And however, we need to understand that love that someone can give is dynamic. Even if you want to, for example, in certain amount of time, you can pour as much as affection you want, but however, in several months, you might show less affection. That does not mean that your love is limited, ladies and gentlemen. Your capacity of love can still be unlimited. However, those are the dynamics, right? At the very least, when we know and we have this idea of love is unlimited, these particular partners and in people in relationship at the very least know that sometimes their partner is going to show more affections and sometimes their partner is going to show less emotions. For example, it makes you to compromise, and you know you both can work together, and the long term for your relationship to stay together is going to be very much longer than what happened in OG and CG, right? Because you know that your capacity, your partner capacity and your capacity is not limited to begin, and because of that, love is dynamic, and love is dynamic. And what if you want to go with CG, it's just going to make the world harder for you to live. We vote for opposition.
Thank you for that fine speech. Now I welcome Government Whip to conclude the debate on government side. Here.
Wait, I want to set up my timer first. So please give me time. Okay, I will start my speech in, oh yeah, for BI preference, I will provide you guys sometimes in between my mapping and rebuttals and my extension speech, and for, you guys can address me with he or him. And I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, before I'll go to my extension speech, I would like to give out some mappings towards the OG, and then some rebuttals towards the opposition, opening opposition bench, and then the member of opposition. First, the mapping towards OG. OG brought the case, the case that opposition government used as their primary case is to jumpy, and then they brought children that one day can commit crime because of the absence of love. We think that committing crime has a lot of variables behind it, and it can for example, can probably caused by mental or financial conditions. So I think it's not really exclusive for opening government to broad cases like this. And then the second, the idea that Deputy Prime Minister of opening government is true, that the essence of their proposal is she is trying to protect individual states or condition like mentals, emotion, and other. But this proposal, unfortunately, is problematic because she didn't bring any further solution when the individual is running out of love. And at the end of the day, the proposal is only creating more and more individualistic person. And by the absence of the solution is the reason why closing government can apprehend opening bench in this debate. And I'm going to explain it later in my speech. And then rebuttals towards the opening opposition. Eju, the deputy leader of opposition hall arguments and concepts were just giving us the scenario of romantic and intimate love that we consider that may only happen between couples. She brought example that what if there is someone who love her, and then what will likely to be happen, and etc. This is too narrow because they cannot protect other individual and society as a whole. They cannot protect people who maybe do not have love for their couples or partner, and they only have love for their maybe siblings or friends. And then our motion today actually does not limit us the love that individual can give and receive is from her or his couple. So I think opening opposition cannot win this debate. And then rebuttals towards member of opposition. Eju, love is unconditional. Therefore, it cannot be limited. Conditional of love may be exist, but we think that it is okay to be limited when it comes to toxicity. We can just, for example, in romantic relationship, we think that we can just leave our partner because of the toxicity he or she may have, and then and that is because and that is the reason why we run out of our love, right? Exactly. When it comes to toxicity, but this concept is good. It gives give you the courage to get out of that mechanism, and it's not it's not harm for you any longer, and then you can be happier if you get out of from toxicity, because happiness not only comes from love and relationship. And then okay, I think
in our side, you can still opt out from relationship if that partner is really damaging you physically and individually. You can still leave your partner even if you know that he loves you forever, right? Because your self-development is much way important than your you being in those toxic relationship, right?
Oh, okay. I think I may be lame if I don't answer this immediately, but actually, your POI is actually exists in my case here, where what happened if if the self-improvement of yourself is actually the matters rather than the toxicity, and we have the solution out of that problems. And let me continue to my extension speech. Eju, what we need in this debate is the protection towards individual and how we can maintain someone's relation towards the other, because we're humans, right? And we're social beings, and there is condition in this motion that limit us, where the feelings of love in ourselves is limited and has the chance to run out. And with that principle, I would like to divide two scenarios that individual might face or they feel being loved and provide love. First, the best scenario. This scenario happens when couples are run out of their love and actually change or leave their partner or person. This is not limited to couples, which at the end of my speech, I will explain the extension out of it. We consider that there are a lot of dynamics in love, and life is complex. There are a lot of variables that have influenced love. We still can justify that love is limited comedy in this scenario. Why? Because first, we care about that individual mental. He or she may feel oppressed or unhappy because of the relationship that he or she is trying to maintain. And we, closing government, can understand and justify their choice to leave or change their partner under consent. But it's mandatory. The reason is, continue to my second scenario, the better scenario. This scenario happens when couples are run out of their love and actually want to stay in with their current partner. This is the POI that comes, the answer for POI comes from closing opposition. In our case here, staying with the current partner is under the condition that both parties are consent and okay to do so. We as the closing government can justify it. Also, by choosing to stay, they are in an attempt to solve their problems that make their love runs out, not because of the feeling of fear that individual won't get a girlfriend or boyfriend in the future anymore, or so that just to fulfill the absence of relationship status. This is also can be implemented in the realm of love towards your parents, towards your siblings, towards your friend, towards your society. We justify that run out of love from individual to lose their feelings of love, but we consider that it is still okay for that individual to just stay in those realms. In those realms, it's better for them to solve their problems first. We push that and hope that certain individual to understand themselves first, and it is justified for them to withdraw or pull themselves from that kind of love relation. Whereas the closing government prefers the idea that when someone is running out of their love, they are trying their best to grow back their feelings of love and not leaving other people or just by being the enemy of other because their justification out of their condition. Also, point of extension from my first speaker about the healthy relationship is the love is that the love is a long lasting, even though it is a limited commodity. People in healthy relationship are always trying their best to solve their problems. And in my speech, I have given the solution whenever the love is running out of that individual. And then I'm very proud to propose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you for that fine speech. Now I welcome Opposition Whip to crystallize and also end the debate as a whole. Stage is yours.
First, give me a second to set up my timer first. I don't have gender pronouns. And my POI preference is you to unmute yourself and give directly POI because I'm not going to read the chat, so I'm not going to respond to your POI if you POI through chat. Okay. By the way, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. I'm going to start my speech at 3, 2, 1. Panels, you should give us more credit because we give a better argument and better analysis. And I want to give I want to distinguish our argument with OO. First, what's distinguish our argument with OO and why makes our argument tense and it's better compared to any teams in this debate. First, we are the one who pointed out to you that and give characterization that love is something dynamic that you can actually eventually there is something that you can transfer into many things, and it's not limited to just something and focus on romantic relationship as what OO give in many of their proposals. Second, we give more impact. We explain to you the impact on how the government team, when the government team wanted to make love limited, and it's bad because it will eventually give bigger impact. For example, like how it's affect the country, how it's affect the activists to changing which community that they should fighting for, because their love is limited. It's not okay. We are the ones who pointed that out. And also, like, we give a more concise example and more something that it's easier to imagine. Okay, moving on. I also want to give a comparisons why our cases is better from the government bench, instead of like agree with the idea that love should be unlimited. A lot people should perceive love as something that is limited. So we think that if you see love as something that is limited, means that you are justifying people to stop loving someone when there's a problem happening, and it's not okay. Because, for example, like experience, OG said that we are more likely to justify people when our parents are more likely to justify their child when their children do something bad. But it's not true, because as parents, in OG sites, they will stop. What would likely to happen? They will stop to love their children when their parents stop. When their children stop. When their children do something bad, it's not okay, right? Like when you children, for example, like do drugs or maybe stealing, do something criminal, and then parents stop loving them, abandon them. This is the worst case from their proposals. So why our proposal is better? We think that when children doing something bad and parents and we perceive love as something unlimited, parents will still love their children. They don't justify it, but what are they going to do? Their love help them to listen to the children. Why? The reason they do it in the first place, it's actually help people to actually give, no thank you, give the second chance for our significant love. So at the end of the day, our love still matter, and love are worth to fight for. This is actually happen in like like when your son are addicted, and you're trying to understand why he choose to be addicted and an addict in the first place, and you actually trying, and what can I help you so you can actually eventually stop to being an addict. And parents love their children in a different way. They show their children different way, and it is true that they don't always understand their children. When OG said that parents will justify someone to someone their children when they do a crime, committed a crime or do bad things. It's very not fair, because parents doesn't always parents have a different way on perceiving what is crime. For example, like Indonesia, many parents think being an LGBT person is a crime, right? It's a bad thing for them. And there when they're starting to do this, like when their children are come out to them, they would more likely to say that I don't have any love for you anymore because you are an LGBT person. But what if we perceive love as something unlimited? We're going to as a child, as parents, we will have the the opportunity to listen to our children and trying to understand them, and trying to accept them, even though they're not fulfill our expectation on what our children should be in the futures, right? So and governments always give proposal and trying to characterize love is something like possession. You need to have someone in order to love, but it's not the truth, because love is not just about having someone or have this kind of relationship. It's not. Love is about wishing better for your loved ones. Wish them all the best, even though it's not always ended good. Um, you can love someone, but you still let them go because you want them to have a better life, because you want them not just for them but also for you, because I want to let go this relationship because I this relationship is toxic to me. It's better for
Nice,
us to
sir.
let go. That's why I love you in the first place. And what is more likely to happen if we agree with a government proposal? We're going to be selfish, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to say that because love is limited, we're going to be very careful in the relationship. We see it as a something transactional. We don't want to give more. We don't want to give more love, but we very expect and demand our couple to give more love. So it's very selfish. It's very selfish, ladies and gentlemen. And also, like in our even if the government said that it's not possible for us to change partner if we characterize love as we conceptualize love as something that is unlimited. It's not true, because change partner is also accessible on our side, because you still want you still can choose to it is justified, even though you still love your couple. You It is justified for you to leave them, because you are hearted, you are no longer get anything from it. And instead of choosing their side, like where people are going to make it as excuses and always change partner, they're going to stuck in this cyclus where they keep changing partner and never stick to one person. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That's how proud to oppose.
Okay, thank you for that fine speech, and that marks the end of today's debate. Thank you so much. So please for debaters to and also observers to leave this room and wait on the main Zoom room for the announcement. For judges, please go to spare room, spare K1. Okay, see you guys there.
See you. Thank you, everyone.